Okay, let's talk Salesforce. If you're in this world, you know this question is going to come up. Guaranteed. What's the real difference between a profile and a permission set? Look, getting this right isn't just about acing an interview. It's absolutely fundamental to building a Salesforce org that's secure and, doesn't break when you try to scale it. So let's dive in.
So at the heart of any big system like Salesforce, there's this constant puzzle, is a challenge that every single admin, developer, and architect has to solve.
And here it is, the million-dollar question. How do you get it just right? You need your sales team to see sales data, but you definitely don't want them touching service cases. A senior manager needs to run reports that a junior employee shouldn't even know exist. I mean, if you give too little access, work just grinds to a halt. But give too much, and whoa, you've got a massive security problem on your hands. So, the name of the game here is precision. And thankfully, Salesforce gives us two main tools to solve this puzzle. They are the core building blocks of user access: profiles and permission sets. We're going to start with profiles.
All right, profiles. I want you to think of the profile as the bedrock, the absolute baseline for what any user can see and do inside Salesforce. It's the starting point.
A profile sets that baseline. It's not meant for one-off exceptions or special little cases. No, it's the standard, default set of permissions for a whole group of users, like, say, everyone on the marketing team or every single sales rep. So what does baseline actually mean in practice? Well, it's everything from which objects a user can even see, like accounts or opportunities, all the way down to field-level security. Can they even view the expected revenue field on an opportunity? The profile also controls which apps and tabs are visible, and even big system-wide stuff like whether a user can export data. Here's a super simple way to think about it. A profile is just like the standard keycard you get on your first day at a new job. It gets you in the main door, and it lets you onto the floor where your department sits. It's the basic, standard-issue access that everyone in your same role gets. And here is the non-negotiable, gotta remember this rule in Salesforce. Every user must have a profile, and they can only have one. Not 0, not 2, exactly 1. This is what makes it such a stable, predictable foundation.
Okay, so if profiles are this really rigid foundation, how in the world do you handle all the exceptions, the unique needs of certain users? Well, that brings us to our second tool, the permission set.
Now notice the key word here, additional. Permission sets don't take anything away. They don't replace the profile. They are purely additive. Their entire job is to grant more access right on top of that baseline we already set up. And this is exactly what they're for. Right? Imagine just one person on your entire support team needs the ability to delete records, but nobody else should have that power. You're not going to create a whole new separate profile just for them, are you? No way. Instead, you create a delete records permission set and you assign it just to that one user. Let's go right back to our keycard analogy. Your standard card, it doesn't get you into the secure server room, right? But if you need to work on a project in there for a week, IT can grant your specific card that special access. That temporary, targeted access grant, well, that is the permission set. And this is where all the flexibility comes from. A user is locked into their one profile, sure, but they can have 0 permission sets, or just 1 or even 100 of them, stacked right on top, with each one granting a very specific, granular ability.
So, we have the foundation, our profiles, and we have the flexible add-ons, the permission sets. How do we put them together to build a really smart, scalable security model?
When you put them side by side, the contrast is really clear. Purpose, base, versus additional. Assignment, one versus many. And strategy, the profile is your foundation, while permission sets are for all the extensions and exceptions. When you use them together, it's a simple but incredibly powerful system.
And this brings us right to the modern best practice strategy. The whole idea is to keep your profiles as minimal and as simple as humanly possible. Maybe you create a standard user profile that has very little access by default. Then you build a library of permission sets for every specific job function, and you start granting access like you're handing out tools from a toolbox.
So why? Why go to all this trouble? I mean, why is this approach so much better than just creating dozens and dozens of highly specific profiles for every little variation in job roles out there?
Well, the payoff for this strategy is huge, and it really boils down to 3 main benefits. First, security. By starting with a minimal profile, you're basically enforcing the principle of least privilege by default. It's way more secure. Second, scalability.
Your system doesn't get bogged down by hundreds of clunky, confusing profiles as the company grows. And finally, ease of administration. I mean, come on, it is just so much easier to manage a few core profiles and a clean library of permission sets.
You know, there's a line from our source material that just sums this up perfectly. Profiles are kept minimal and stable, while permission sets are used to flexibly extend access. That's it. That's the whole philosophy right there.
If you remember just one thing from all this, please make it this. Profiles are for the rule, permission sets are for the exception. You build a strong, clean foundation, and then you add layers of complexity carefully and deliberately right on top.
So that leaves us with this one final thought. The next time you're setting up permissions, I want you to ask yourself this question. Is this access model I'm building, is it built to scale or is it built to break? Because really, building a system that can adapt and grow with the business, it all comes down to getting that balance between profiles and permission sets just right.